Ghostbusters stars Kristen Wiig, Melissa McCarthy, Kate McKinnon, Leslie Jones, and Chris Hemsworth, and is directed by Paul Feig? And it is, of course, a reboot of the original Ghostbusters, although I'm not quite sure if it's a reboot. I'm not quite sure if Sony is quite sure if it's a reboot. We'll talk spoilers in a bit. I can't get into it now, but for now, no spoilers. Ghostbusters. You already love it or hate it, even before seeing it, I'm sure. We don't need to get into that. I've seen the movie. Is it funny? I laughed throughout. Is it good? I laughed throughout. Is that enough for me? Is that enough for you? This new Ghostbusters is to the original Ghostbusters as Jurassic World is to Jurassic Park. It's the exact same type of movie. They're trying to reboot the franchise with similar story structure, similar visual things, just with an updated 2016 flashy, shiny look. Technically, I could say the same thing about Star Wars The Force Awakens, but the thing is, that was in much more capable hands. Sony has a pretty bad track record with their hands. Look at Spider-Man. The Spider-Man franchise is a perfect example. They've rebooted it twice now, and they're going on a third time. At least Marvel's involved this time. But it's the same exact thing. It's kind of like, where are you going with this Spider-Man franchise? You're just taking this name, Spider-Man. Everyone's going to see the movie, and it doesn't really matter what you do. What are you doing? This, unfortunately, falls into the exact same situation, and it's not fair. Because the people who made the movie are good. I loved Bridesmaids, for example. A lot of people loved The Heat and Spy. I haven't seen them, but I've heard great things. This movie suffers the most because it is called Ghostbusters. I completely understand why it's called Ghostbusters, obviously. Every time the movie kind of gets going and starts chugging along, and I'm like, okay, here we go, it screeches to a halt to either reference the original movie or squeeze into a story beat from the original movie. And every time that happened, I was just kind of like, why? Why? Because it would have been better if it wasn't Ghostbusters. You can have people that are like hunting paranormal things or sci-fi things or aliens and stuff like that. You could have done it with this cast and it could have been better. And that's the real disappointing part of all this, is that it could have been better. This really had no chance. It was going to be exactly what it is from the start, as soon as it became just like, Sony rebooting a thing again. And so it's exactly the same as your Jurassic Worlds, your Independence Day Resurgences. It's the same type of thing. The cast, funny people, saying funny things. Of course they're funny. I was laughing once again throughout. They are fine. I think Kate McKinnon is a standout because maybe I just don't know her as well, but she seemed to be playing a character. Everyone else kind of just doing their usual thing. Chris Hemsworth, I have to say, probably the funniest part of the movie, but I mean, he is the comic relief. He's like the idiot character in the movie. Very, very funny. They did a couple of things with him that I thought were absolutely hilarious. I should probably mention the effects in the movie. I am a broken record. I much prefer practical effects. I understand it's Ghostbusters, but the original Slimer was a puppet, right? So obviously I prefer that to this. These effects kind of looked like Scooby-Doo, the live-action movie, or maybe even like Scooby-Doo Monsters Unleashed, specifically like the dragon ghost thing that's flying around, or demon, whatever it is. Maybe kids will like it. It's not for me. But there's really not much else I can say about Ghostbusters. It's, it's not a movie in the same way that the original Ghostbusters was a movie. That was made 30 years ago, and we're still talking about it today, like fervently. And they made a new movie, and they're trying to start a franchise based on a movie made 30 years ago. This movie will not be remembered in like 6 months. And that's just how it is. Same thing went for Jurassic World. I don't think Independence Day is going to really stick around very long. I know they're making more of those movies, but they don't have the staying power that the original did. And I just wish that this was not Ghostbusters. I feel bad for everybody involved that it's kind of stuck as Ghostbusters. It might have been funnier if it was its own original thing. But I do have a few things to say that are considered spoilers, so let's move into that. Honestly, I have a lot of friends who just aren't interested in seeing this movie that just said, just tell me what happens. They didn't really care. They're not anti-Ghostbusters. They just don't really care. If you're like that, stick around, and I'll just tell you about some cameos and stuff like that. Old characters. Slimer's in it. Again, I prefer him as a puppet. It is what it is. The Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, the reason he doesn't look very good in the trailer, which I was like, why does he look really bad, is because he's a balloon in the movie. He's a float, like a parade balloon, whatever you want to call it. So I guess that makes sense. And that was a cute little cameo. That wasn't so bad, actually. And there's one more character cameo that is making me wonder what this is. Is it a reboot or what? We'll talk about that at the very end of this video because it was weird, very weird. But let's talk about the cast. So everyone in the cast is back. Every single one of them is back, except for Rick Moranis, obviously. I don't think anyone expected him to be in it. Harold Ramis is a bronze bust toward the beginning. That was nice. At the end, it said for Harold Ramis, and I was like, I don't know that he would have really liked this movie, but okay. Bill Murray has way more of a part than I was expecting. It genuinely feels like that whole scene was just written in once he finally was like, please don't sue me, I'll do it. Dan Aykroyd, really, really awkward cameo. Maybe he's not as good as I remember. He actually says, I ain't afraid of no ghosts, before speeding off in a taxi, and I was just kind of like... Annie Potts, her cameo was fine because it was quick and she was like working at a hotel clerk desk, whatever. That made sense. Ernie Hudson had the best cameo, actually, because throughout the movie, Leslie Jones is talking about her uncle this, her uncle that, and he's her uncle, and I was like, why didn't I see that coming? I was pissed at myself for not seeing that coming. So that was actually a good idea. Sigourney Weaver pops up in the credits, if I remember correctly. Just a quick thing, not a big deal, it's cute, whatever. I can't not mention the fact that the dance sequence in the closing credits, which, by the way, I was laughing at because it was Chris Hemsworth, so I thought it was hilarious. I can't not mention that it was very clearly supposed to be in the movie when Chris Hemsworth has everybody, like, pose in a dance. That was clearly the end of the dance number. It made no sense in the movie, and it made sense once the credits rolled, and I can't believe that was ever in the movie. It reminds me of in Spider-Man 2, Amazing Spider-Man 2, when they brought back Peter's father, they shot it, and then they cut it. Sony, they're fucking lunatics. Holy shit. The big thing I have to say it's like a character kind of cameo. Makes me wonder what they're doing with this. At the beginning of the movie, it said Ghost Corps, a Sony company, and I was like, here we go. But then it was just kind of a reboot, and I was like, all right, I get what they're doing. Jurassic World did a reboot, but like referencing the original. This one was doing it without referencing the original. Technically, like it's a new universe kind of thing. Until the very end, I think it was after the credits, all the way after, Zool is mentioned. So I don't really know what the plan is here, Sony. But frankly, I don't think they do either. That's Ghostbusters! Let me know what you thought of Ghostbusters, preferably after you've seen Ghostbusters. Let me know if you have any idea where Sony is going with this. If you have any thoughts on that, I don't think they do, so maybe if they're watching, they can get some tips. It's exactly like Spider-Man all over again. The Andrew Garfield franchise, they clearly didn't know what they were doing. If you'd like to talk more about Ghostbusters with me, you can follow me and tweet at me. I'm at Striffleric on Twitter. The link is down in the info. Also, subscribe to Pretty Much It if you enjoyed this. We do some funny shit on here. It is what it is. Thank you very much for watching. I really do appreciate it. That's pretty much it.